Authorities in Pakistan's Bajor pedigree area include pledged activity versus war staff who arrested and hit a physician, sparkling protests. Medics went on hit and the war was criticized following Dr. Abdul Hamid was detained for several hours on Sunday. Protesters charged the troop and its inter-services intellect, ISI, spy agent of country disorderly conduct. Campaigners say tens of thousands of pedigree residents include been annihilated or disappeared for year of dispute. Doctors in Bajor named off their hit on Monday following the war-done acquiescence. Protesters had endangered to expand it to some components of the nation. The acquiescence involved liberating doctors of creatures stopped at war checkpoints in pedigree areas. The troop authorities as well pledged to restrain the quantity of soldiers permitted to search care treat at citizen hospitals, a continuous resource of appeal of original inhabitants. Blood pressure on the war had been house with Sunday's occurrence. Dr. Hamid, who planned at the agent staff clinic in Bajor's major city car, was roughed up time he was visiting a woman patient in his chamber. Same personnel help the physician requested them to expect external, but instead of they step up to the physician and one of them shook hands in him. The physician got a bit eager and rejected to tremble the other person's brush, request them to move external and expect plow he was completed in his patient. The two men later pounced on his sibling, Dr. Han told. They named in several some associate and roughed up the physician and some personnel. Later they drawn my sibling by the wool, shoved him in a lorry and hurried off. Dr. Hamid was liberated just following the doctors and some clinic personnel closed downward all services and care store in the major markets of Kar as well stretched downward their blind. The occurrence was wide debated on public print, in activists critical the war and the ISI of treat the federally administered pedigree areas, Vale, as their fief. In a live video share on Facebook, a weeping Dr. Han said protesters how human beings would no enable the ISI to murder their family. Are you a defender of the human beings, or are you a killer, he told, address the ISI. Reason do you wish to rotate the family of the nationality in yours enemies? Vale is a semi-autonomous stripe of earth on Pakistan's polar western boundary. It was utilized as a basis for against Soviet Islamic militants for the Afghani War of the 1980s and became a Taliban and Al-Qaeda Nature Reserve Position 9/11. Thousands of Vale human beings are believed to include been annihilated for the time. A war transactions to precise out against Pakistan militants in 2014 moved almost a millionth human beings. Residents include florid layers of safety checks on all accession-exit means of communication to the region. Non-locals, consisting the main print, are prohibited of traveling to Vale. The region is as well external the field of Pakistan's routine framework of judiciary, and is controlled by a colonialist-era law how prescribes joint punishments to tribes for violations devoted by individuals. But with January, protests erupted in several components of Vale and Pakistan's polar west, generally above extrajudicial killings and procedures at safety checkpoints. A motion that begun following one such the estimated extrajudicial murder of a pedigree youthful in Karachi, was the at first to criticize the war's actions in pedigree areas. The Pashtun Protect motion appears to include outdoor the floodgates for social critique of the war, thing that had been inconceivable before a few months back. Its leaders complained how more than rather than 30,000 original inhabitants been violently disappeared by the war's intellect web. Lot more than had their houses demolished by the war, campaigners tell.